I was homeless for a while. In the grip of my drug addiction, once I got to a point to where I started using heroin, I just went to the streets for about a year and a half. I don't even have a desire to go get a job at this point. But it was almost like I just didn't care anymore. And that's what that drug did to me. Either way, it was enough to scare me into saying, I need some help.
I remember my oldest son telling me that his dad told him that don't get used to your mom being here because she's gonna go back out to the streets. And I guess that was enough to wake me up. So to get clean, they set me up through Valley Medical. Eventually I got clean and I've been clean ever since.
I was so sick of living that life and I just couldn't look at myself in the mirror, I knew I was done. I know I have it in me to build a good life for myself. I believed that about myself. But I didn't know how to do it. And so I entered into drug court and I went wholeheartedly into that. I said I was done using drugs and alcohol, and I literally was.
So while sitting in King County, a lady approached me, realized we relatives of ours that went to school together, and so we got to talking and I got to telling her that I was ready to clean my act up, but who's gonna hire somebody with a criminal history? And so she told me about Pioneer Industries. And so in May, when I got out of jail, I came down to Pioneer Industries, and a couple of months later, I was hired.
I'd heard when I was in camp that Pioneer had a machine shop, and I was like, that's where I'm going. I just started randomly calling Pioneer. I filled out my application. I went down to WorkSource, and I think I called 3 times a day, every single day. And I was just so ambitious because I just knew that this is where I needed to be. With my history as a machinist, I got hired in at a good wage.
A year after working at Pioneer, I was able to get myself an apartment, and I paid my rent on time, I paid all my bills, and eventually, a year after that, I was able to buy a condo. That was the highlight of my life. It was the first big thing that I'd ever bought, and it was mine.
So I get into my transitional house. I'd applied for an apartment at the Lobdell, another Pioneer-owned property. I'm working the steps, I'm active in my kids' life, and I'm actually doing things to better my life, I was so grateful. This was my own apartment, the first time in my life that I just went on my own and got something, by myself. I never understood how important that was until it happened, because that key thing is gonna save me here in the future as well. I think I see a pattern here, like I made this commitment and I made a right choice, and I'm getting these blessings, to build a life for myself.
Pioneer, for me, was like my second family. These people, nobody judged you. They didn't care that you had a criminal history. We all were the same. I know all of us didn't have a criminal background, but it didn't make a difference. Nobody judged anybody. I felt very comfortable here, and these guys would, lift me up and make me feel better, and I don't know what I would do without them.
I was so happy to just be employed and have a purpose and be back to my trade. And I just lived here as much as I could. As often as they'd let me out of work release, I was here. Little did I know that when I started here, the people that I were gonna meet were gonna change my life.